I follow the teachings of the Grey Jedi, and can you explain the teachings of the Grey Jedi? I mean, no, I can't. So there are two definitions of a Grey Jedi. One of them was completely made up by the fans. This made up version was like a Grey Jedi's own religion. So it was the guys between the Jedi and the Sith. They had their own code, and apparently they could access both sides of the Force. The other definition is just a term that shows how some Jedi choose to conduct themselves. So that's not something you teach or align yourself to a specific code. So for clarity, the term Grey Jedi did exist, but not in canon. It was always a Legends product, so let's just go through those two different definitions. The first one, where a person can use both sides of the Force. This was created by some members of the fandom. And no, this version does not make any appearance in any form of canon or Legends material. You might be thinking of the Knights of the Old Republic video games, where you can use both and use whichever alignment that you want. These are just game mechanics, nothing more. You may also want to bring up Jedi Survivor. After the story has been completed, you can continue to use the dark side. Yes, the story explained that Cal dipped into the dark side, which is how you can activate it. So using it in line with the story isn't Cal using both at the same time, because he is slowly becoming corrupted by it. He's giving into his emotions, which is why Merrin had to step in. Using it after the game is done, again, is just a fun game mechanic. Both sides of the Force being used without risk of corruption has never been acknowledged in any story or lore in canon or Legends. In my opinion, it's frankly a ridiculous concept. You just can't use the dark side without being corrupted. You simply can't. That's not my belief. That is a fact written in canon lore. Its very existence just shits all over Anakin's story. Now, the second description refers to Jedi who chose to distance themselves from the High Council, which means they would function a little bit more independently outside the constraints of the Jedi Code. Now, this isn't a title. This isn't an area of the Jedi that you can join. This isn't its own separate religion that you can leave the Jedi and join to. It's just a term that was sometimes used to describe unconventional Jedi. These Jedi did not stick strictly to the Order's ideals. I mean, for example, Tavoka, the Wookiee Master Jedi, he mentioned that some had considered Qui-Gon Jinn to be a Grey Jedi. This all came down to Qui-Gon's frequent disagreements with the High Council. You do find Grey Jedi robes in the KOTOR game, and the description backs this up. But again, this is just a term. This definition of Grey Jedi is basically students who finish school but decided not to follow all of the rules that were initially taught to them. They want to do things their own way. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad or they're evil. They just don't always agree with the Jedi leaders. So to answer your question specifically, no, there are no teachings of the Grey Jedi, because one was made up by the fans, and two, you can't really teach a shoulder shrug and say, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Hope it helped.